worries. You going anywhere fun?
I'm going to visit my sister, so
Okay.
yeah.
Depending upon context, that could be fun or not fun. So, given
I
this is
mean,
recorded, I'll leave it at that. So,
no, it should definitely be fun. You know.
cool. All right.
Hi guys.
Hey there.
Hey there.
Thank you for the app.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yes.
Yeah, I will take zero credit for anything Smart Connections app related. I'm only here as the best way I can contribute is to facilitate discussions. So
Nice.
it's all Brian and others.
Well,
in the
it's
community for
an
sure.
important contribution.
Yeah, it's true.
All right, I'm getting stuff set up here on my side. I realized I should be logging in this, but I'll go ahead and at least post the link while we let others join. If anyone's going to join, it all depends upon. I don't know, Gregorio, have you watched any of the recordings before? Are you familiar with sort of how we structure some of these meetings or anything like that?
No. So it's
Cool.
new. I'm new to this.
All right, sounds good. Well, here's the Miro link that we hop into, and I'll share my screen. Are you familiar with the concept? I always do this sort of briefing just to make sure everybody's. Are you familiar with the concept of a lean coffee? Have you ever heard of that before?
No. Like
Cool.
you.
So it's a meeting structure style, and you can actually, I think, very early on, one of the very first ones, it's a meeting structure style that's intentionally designed to be emergent. I don't know where, somewhere in the link I'll find it. But the idea of lean coffees is we'll have a virtual whiteboard, essentially, of stickies, and whoever's on the call, essentially, if you show up, then you're going to be a driver of what we would talk about. The idea is we have all the topics that we potentially would want to talk about. We stack rank them and vote them, and then the people on the call essentially will sort of use like a Kanban style. All right, let's talk about this topic for 10 minutes. If we want to keep talking about it, then let's keep talking about it. Otherwise, let's move it off the board and do the other topic. So it's a way for us to have some degree of structure to what's very much supposed to be an emergent, engaging kind of conversation. It's sort of the lean coffee style. With that, I can actually go ahead and why don't we go ahead and hop into adding more topics? And I think, Brian, did you pre-do some of these things here, or were these ones that you added earlier in the week?
I was curious if you added this.
I didn't add them. I don't know. Well, who?
Somebody added them.
See, somebody added. That's very cool. A little bit of proactivity here. Info.
Yeah.
Oh, Fran added them. Cool. So given, I don't know if he's going to join. So if he doesn't, then we'll try to infer what is meant by those. But what I'm going to do is start the timer here.
Could you tell who did this?
Yeah, if you right click and you go to info, you'll see who created it if they happen to be logged in. So it looks like Fran Abenza added those.
Okay, yeah. He's got some good ideas.
Yeah, cool. So what I'll do is I'll start the timer here, and then whoever is on the board, we can add sticky notes, and then just essentially add them and then drag them to this topics panel here, and then we'll vote on which ones we want to discuss and like in what order and that type of thing. And if you don't have anything, that's great. If you do have something, go ahead and add it. I do have one that reaction to the new Obsidian web clipper, which obviously you saw I was very excited about. Anyway, I see got some other folks joining here. It looks like Boris has joined. Hi, Boris. Welcome to the meeting.
Hey, Boris. Thanks for joining.
I am not sure, Boris, if you're familiar with the lean coffee style meeting, but the gist of a lean coffee is we get a list of topics that we might want to talk about, and then we'll prioritize what we want to talk about and then just talk about it together. So it's a way to add a little bit of structure to what otherwise is an emergent meeting. So we're spending time, about 5 minutes doing that. that also buys me time to log into Miro on my iPad so I can draw if we need to.
And you can find the link in the chat in the video or in the video call.
I need to sign up, I guess. Oh no, I don't.
It should, yeah, I think I have it structured where it's free. Also, just so that everybody's aware, we use an agent to record the meeting. This lets me take off the administrative effort of having like clipped parts of the meeting. So that's what you see is the sixth participant on the call. Lets me in 30 seconds be able to actually capture like previous meetings with, you know, clips and tags and stuff, not have to worry about it. So.
Sweet.
Yeah, I actually was able to come up with a blog post based on one of our last meetings using the transcripts that you provided.
Oh, cool.
there. Yeah, and I would like to do more with the videos. You know, so if afterward, if you have any links that I can get access to, like download the videos, so then maybe I can upload them to YouTube or something. I was looking around and I don't know if I have access. I might just need a link or something.
Let me look real fast.
Like it's definitely
there's
not
one
urgent.
video that we definitely do not have the recording for.
Yeah.
And just disclaimer for Gregorio and Boris, there was some nefarious bots that joined this call one time and started to screen share some less than desirable audio and video that we tried to quickly kick out from the thing. So needless to say, we don't have the recording from that meeting. So if you see people join, help me be aware of that. They made their presence known pretty quickly, but that's sort of the nature.
I'm bummed. I would love to have seen that recording.
And I think I do have some of the recordings here, but yeah, Brian, I might be able to give you guest access to Grain. So, and let's see, cool. I don't know if my iPad, sure. 20%. All right, we'll do that there. Oh, and while we're sitting here adding things, Brian, I've enlisted an intern who's essentially a local person. He's in community college, going to a local. He's about to go to a local university. Who I've known for a while, but he just wanted to get more involved in stuff that I'm doing. And I was like, I can't pay you, but I can legally engage you in something that's of benefit to you and not of benefit to me, like as a sort of an educational kind of thing. And so I started talking about what we're doing. He's going to get involved in this, but long and the short of it is, I was like, one of the things that might be interesting is you getting involved in using this tool called Obsidian and this smart connections thing. And the gist of it was he was already using Obsidian. Like I'd never talked to him about any of this. He was already using Obsidian and was already aware of smart connections.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, so I was like, that's pretty crazy. So anyway, I think his name is Zia Nori. He might be joining some of our meetings coming up, but he's hopefully going to get involved too in the community. So
fantastic. Yeah, just let me know if there's any way that I could help facilitate anything.
Yeah, sure thing. Okay, cool. So here's the topics. And again, Boris, Gregorio, what we're going to do now is I'm going to select these topics. And if you're in the Miro board, you will be eligible. Let me just sticky notes. Yep. You'll be eligible to essentially vote for which topics would be the things that you would want us to talk about. So I'm going to do 3 votes. We'll do it just a minute here. And you should see now something like this on your screen where you would join voting. And in joining voting, you can click on what topics you'd like to talk about, and then we'll stack rank that and use that as essentially our backlog of topics.
So we have 1 vote for each.
You get a total of 3 votes. So pick the top 3 things you might want to talk about, and then it'll
Okay.
aggregate it. So
There's a new web clipper. That's cool.
very excited about this. I encountered this, so I'm obviously going to vote for that one, but we'll talk about that. All right, so be sure to vote, and then the results will be tabulated.
I don't know what half these are. What's an augmented conversation?
What's funny is someone added that who wasn't able to join the meeting, so I don't think any of us actually know what that means. So.
You know, I actually think I might have an idea where he's going with that, because I've had some conversations with other people
Okay.
where it's like, imagine having AI. So it's like a third participant. So it's like me and you having a conversation, but then you have AI
Okay.
to kind of interject. I think that might be what he means, but it seems like we've already got our top 3.
Cool.
That
So we
was-
got these. That sounded interesting, so I'm just going to put that as sort of 4 here. And then we'll go from that. And since it's all tied at 3, I'm just, if anyone objects to these being the 3 order, I think we should have plenty of time to get through all 3 of these topics in the next 45 minutes. So,
Yeah.
okay, if we hop into this one at the top, reaction to the new Obsidian web clipper.
Yeah. So did you want to lead on that one, and then let me
I'll
know
do that.
when, like, or how I should chime in? I mean, it's
Sure. I'll do that. I'll give a little bit of a demo of what I was kind of, it's actually tied to the thing I was talking about with new interns. So in a previous, just so everybody knows like the context of why I found this incredibly interesting. In a previous Lean Coffee, I had talked about, and I think it's up here, a scenario where I essentially would leverage the smart connections conversations when I would encounter something interesting on the internet, to have smart connections be the tool that dumps an article into my Obsidian Vault if I just give it a link. So there's a previous video around that. But this idea of, if people are familiar with like Pocket or any like URL like archival type tool, I was talking with my intern about that, and he was going to go build something that was going to essentially be a Python script that was going to scrape a website and then put it into an Obsidian article. And what we ended up realizing was, let's see, Chrome, I'm actually going to go to your chat. Where is this? The link chat, Smart Connections app. Yeah. What I realized is recently, I believe, and Brian, you know these folks better than I do, but is Dynalist like the official company behind Obsidian MD? Like if you go to like Obsidian?
So that sounds familiar, so it's probably right. But I think to your point, the person that developed this web clipper, I believe, is also the CEO of Obsidian.
Okay, cool. So anyway, and I'll put this link into the chat here. But I was like, this is blowing my mind. The fact that from an official party, there is essentially a tool, and I'll do this here. So let me go to like Gresky business architecture. So I can find like an article from a colleague here. Yeah, okay, cool. So here's a blog post, like an article. Every project need this. So what this tool does, and I'll see if I can safely bring up my Obsidian Vault without disclosing private information here. And I'll just go to this. Yeah, this is good enough. All right. So here's my Obsidian Vault, like my personal vault here. What this tool does is it essentially adds an extension to Chrome where you can press this. It has formatting things that it can do, and then it adds to Obsidian, and it actually creates in the right folder structure the article in an Obsidian node. Like, boom, it just does it. And what this essentially is doing for me is obviously replacing Pocket. But as a practice, one of the ways that I use Obsidian is to try to begin to quite literally create an archive of things that are interesting to me that I encounter, trying to get them into a format where my system of record, if you will, is a bunch of markdown tiles in Obsidian. So essentially, the long and the short of that is there is an official extension now that allows that to happen. And I just found out from another colleague that there is a mobile version of this too. And I don't know that I have that up, but you can also get this for, let me see if I can find it.
Good to know.
Yeah, so it is pretty slick. It works. Yeah, here we go. Here's this copy link. I think the big thing that impressed me, yeah, so there's this link too. And I'll leave it this. The big thing that impressed me, and then we can obviously have a conversation around it, is it just works. It works really, really well. Like it's great. You know, when you get like reader view on a website article, it does it to that level of fidelity. It keeps images. If you look at actually some of the settings here, you can go to options and you get all of the options around shortcuts, properties that you can have, different templates. Like I was messing around with templates, you can have all sorts of stuff. So all the things that you would expect from like a really well-designed Obsidian plugin are built directly into this tool. And I can only imagine the use cases that people are going to be encountering around either doing this manually, like when you encounter something, but I mean, you can get some agents going here and deploying these kind of things and having like a really clean, you could build that into your own personal like agent-like workflow where you can just start to scrape some other things around that. So anyway, thoughts, comments, reactions to that?
Yeah,
Greg,
it's
where are you?
cool. I've been using a lot of Readwise lately, and I kind of have a pretty good flow. So like, I have this script that just runs nightly, and it takes highlights from Readwise and pulls them into my vault in Obsidian. So I feel like I got that dialed in, and like the reading experience matters. I don't really want to be reading in the Obsidian vault necessarily. So I feel like I'm not entirely sold on this, but it seems useful, especially on mobile. That would be nice.
Yeah, I used to use, so that's that, they have like that Readwise official plugin. And I used to use that a good bit because I did, like, Boris, to your point, that if people aren't familiar with that, if I recall correctly, what it does is essentially extracts and put into Obsidian your highlights on articles, not the full article itself.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Although
Yeah.
I had my own flow that did a similar thing before. I think the official integration does it pretty much what I have handwritten like a couple years ago. But that's the other thing. I'm not sure I want the full content of an article in my vault. It's like highly not like this is not what I wrote, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
so
to your point, I had a pretty strict rule where I would only put my own words in my Obsidian vault.
Yeah.
And that's because, you know, when I first made Smart Connections, it's because I was losing track of my own words, you know, so I thought it would just be insane for me to be copy and pasting any third party content. But then, you know, with Smart Connections getting better and, you know, imagining future improvements, which will make the content be available at the right times, you know, like I'm starting to open up more, you know, towards having third party words in my vault.
Interesting. Yeah, I have some third party words. Like I have like this random thing that does like collisions. It like tries to take two random notes and like find the synthesis between them on a nightly basis using like GPT stuff. But the output of that goes into a special place. It's like nightly AI bullshit. Rather than polluting my corpus. So that's how I'm trying to square that circle, I guess.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So like the stuff that's not made by me goes in the special sequestered place.
Yeah, that's I to your point, I think that's that's naturally, I think, what I'm starting to do with those things too. Like that was going into a specific folder. And Brian, this goes back to some of the conversations we've had that I've sort of struggled with in terms of using smart connections, being able to wisely direct smart connection, interaction to just the things that is original thought, as opposed to the other articles, and or incorporate other thought when I'm wanting that to happen. Like, let's say I want to have something that's going to synthesize me preparing for one of my consultant meetings that needs to be exclusively only original thought, and then bump that up against, all right, given this, like my vocation and what I do is a lot of like executive coaching and strategy and things like that. And one of the things that would be useful for me is, when I have monthly one-on-ones with the C-suite of a client, I don't have a lot of time to talk to them about things, but I would like to drop like, hey, here's some things over the last 30 days that I've encountered that are sort of relevant to what we've been talking about. Being able to not just randomly go across the internet, but instead go from my vault of articles that I've encountered that I didn't necessarily have the time to read all the way through, but might be relevant to this, and give me 3 that are relevant to drop in somebody's inbox. Like that idea of a smart environment, being able to delineate those types of things is neat. So, by the way, just so that from a recording and perspective, and I don't know if this is exactly, Boris, how yours got structured, but this was like an old thing that I used to use from Readwise. And what Readwise that integration was able to do is essentially pull some information, and then as you highlight different parts of books, like this was like when I was reading Leadership as Language, it would essentially continue to add highlights as you added them to like Amazon. And so, and the link you would get, you can actually, I think, kind of see here, it would go to like a Readwise link that linked to like, this was like a Kindle source. So Boris was mentioning that was a really nice workflow too, to have that kind of stuff. So.
Yep. Very similar to my flow as well. And I assume it captures your notes and highlights there.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Gregorio, any thoughts on sort of this topic?
Yeah, I was searching that, like, because I don't have the account, so I just realized I need to open the account and then do the donation and get access to this extension, because otherwise it doesn't work.
Oh,
and then,
the Smart Connect.
No, this one.
As opposed to Smart Connections? You mean Miro?
No, the Web Clipper.
Oh, I didn't have to do a donation.
Well, I don't have the, what's it called? It says here that I need to go early access. I need to start to install the early access version. So I need the Catalyst license, apparently.
I see what you're saying.
I haven't encountered that.
Is that for the mobile app specifically?
No, I have a MacBook, so.
So maybe the Mac version?
I think Windows doesn't have this problem?
I mean, I'm on a Mac right now.
I'm on a Mac as well. I didn't see any of that.
And it works for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, this is a perfect example of something that we can spend some time to work through, because, if you're encountering that, then other people are going to encounter it. So.
Or maybe I can enable legacy mode in Web Clipper. Let me see. Wait.
Are you in Chrome?
Yeah. Are you in Chrome?
Yes.
Interesting.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I did not encounter that. I essentially went to, maybe did I go to the, Obsidian, maybe I gave a bad link.
By the way, does Smart Chat conversation view, should that be working?
Yeah. So are you having issues with the chat?
Yeah, I haven't gotten it to work yet.
What error are you seeing?
Nothing. It just doesn't. Like, I try to chat it and it doesn't do anything.
Huh.
Maybe I need some. Is this supposed to be like local chat, or do I need an API key for something?
So in the top right corner, there's a little gear icon, and you can add API keys or you can configure a local model, but there's no built-in local chat model.
Okay, maybe that's it. But can I call like Ollama?
Yeah, so to do that, you have to set the model platform to custom local,
Okay.
and then it gives you some options to configure Ollama. If you search on the GitHub, there's like a few different issues and discussions of people showing their configuration that they've used to make Ollama work.
Got it. Okay.
Try
Cool.
to search Ollama on the GitHub.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad, Gregorio, did you figure out sort of what the issue was? Which link were you using, first of all? Was it the Chrome Web Store one?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I think now should work. Let's see.
Okay, yeah. And again, for the benefit of folks recording, I have not encountered any reason why it would need to be paid for. So if you're encountering that, use caution and try to figure out how to not go down the path to get it paid for.
Yeah,
Let me see. I'm not looking like. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything there. So cool. All right. Well, let us know if we encounter any other issues with that.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, fine.
Sweet. Yeah. And that's just going to personally help, I think, a ton with that. Again, the big thing for me is it's an obvious, pocket replacer. Again, if anyone watches this recording and is from Pocket, I'm not trying to like rain on your parade, but in the spirit of sort of why we all get together for both smart connections and then by sort of necessity smart connections is tied to Obsidian. One of the big drivers of reasons people use Obsidian is the idea of your information is retained by you. So like you're creating a bunch of markdown files and a bunch of collateral that you own locally. And that can be incredibly powerful now, but then going forward. And one of the reasons I just bring up this comparison to Pocket is two things. One, if I look at saves that I've had within Pocket as a tool, it's saving all of these things, but I don't actually have the source of all of this information, right? I don't actually own the piece of data that's capturing the fact that at one point in time, I saved this article from Ethan Mollick or that. I don't have, that data is stored within Pocket. So that can be frustrating. The other thing is, I can't really do much with that. And so I'm sort of beholden to Pocket as its interface. Like I can't tell you how much it drives me crazy that when I go to Pocket, it only shows, if you look at the actual screen, like share of what I'm looking at, I'm only going to Pocket to look at the things that I've saved that might not always be the case, but they're using less than 25% of the real estate to show me only 3 things that I've saved and at least 50% of things that they're trying to get click through for me to click on other links. Like as a business model, I understand why that's the case, but as a user experience, it's awful. So I would personally rather not be beholden to that type of experience when I just want to save an article. So obviously that's different if it's going into a markdown file that's in Obsidian. So that's why it was a big appeal to me. So anyway, that's enough of that topic, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Pocket sold out like 5 years ago when they started changing it like that.
Charlie enters the chat and he goes, Pocket sold out 5 years ago. I've never met you, Charlie, but I already liked it.
Well, why Pocket? Why not like another Clipper? Why not Readwise?
I didn't want to keep paying for Readwise, and I liked Readwise experience. I just didn't want to keep paying for it. I was a big fan of Readwise, and I just was like, I don't want to spend money. And I also just like the time, energy, and effort started to diminish because, as people can sort of saw from my workflow, I encounter things that I don't have the time to actually read it and I want as quick as possible way to essentially, with low effort as possible, drastically narrow down the internet to things that are relevant based upon my human experience of what I've encountered for potential retrieval down the road by either me or an AI agent. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of like future proofing involved too. Having all of this as markdown, like not only does it make sure if that website disappears that you still have that information, but also the Markdown format is just so accessible, for things like smart connections to parse it into useful data. And then, I imagine in the future, there's just going to be more ways to manipulate that Markdown, to provide value to you.
Exactly. Yes, I agree.
Cool. All right. Next topic is web search and smart connections for Obsidian. I don't know what this means. So who wants to?
Yes. So I wrote it. So basically,
okay.
Let's say you're chatting with the AI, and then you want the AI to perform a certain search. Like, have you tried Open Web UI?
I've never heard of that.
It's a kind of UI where you have, it's like the copy of ChatGPT, and then you can add, let's say, functionality like web search. So the model can start searching online, and then you can add at some point also image generation. So ideally, let's say you are doing something, you're reading, and then you want the AI to start searching online, and it comes with a new idea. It's like you enlarge your database of information by asking the AI. Maybe you can find connection with something external of your Vault, and then bring it in and say, okay, there is this, this, and this that you should look. No, it's about reasoning, more or less.
Yeah. So
I think Stefano maybe brought this up. Brian, did he bring this up on a previous call too? So obviously I want you to react to it, but I'm trying to connect that dot.
I don't recall for sure.
Okay.
But as far as search in the smart chat, Gregorio, just so I'm clear, you're specifically referring to the smart chat, which is inside of Obsidian, right? And not the ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Okay. So, because if you're using the ChatGPT, there's already that limited search capability that's provided there. Where the smart chat is currently is it's currently in a it's in a bit of an in-between phase, because the code there is pretty old, and I've been working on developing a new architecture for that code so it better fits into all of the other pieces of the smart environment. And but I did want to bring up the Open Web UI that you mentioned. That is a very interesting project. And I've considered okay, should I just replace the smart chat, with this Open Web UI? And, because it does what it does really well. It's just, I'm not sure that, I would have to do a lot of fitting my current architecture to that architecture. And that just adds an extra layer, so it would remove the development of chat from my plate, but it would also add this development of transformations of transforming what I'm doing to fitting the Open UI or Web UI model. So basically what I decided on is rewriting the smart chat so that it'll be more amenable to future developments like integration with smart actions. Smart actions are what is used by the ChatGPT GPTs to access your Obsidian. And so I know I'm kind of going all over the place here, but the point that I'm trying to get to is that I see that search functionality basically becoming a smart action. And there, the cool part about that is that the search that would be happening would, like everything else, in Smart Connect and Smart Connections, it would be happening locally. So I did just record a video this morning showing the first custom actions that integrate with the browser. So these actions, for example, will search Twitter and then return tweets, or bookmark a tweet, or schedule a tweet. And I imagine that the search capabilities would, follow those same patterns where, there's this new action, and, with the new version of the smart chat, we will be able to utilize those actions very similar to how you can use actions in GPTs, except for those actions will be available in the Smart Chat in Obsidian. One of those actions could become a Google search. Another action could become a Bing search. And we could even go further and use Perplexity, because the way those actions are developed is that they're just using the browser to create, to run the search, to scrape the results, and all of that happens locally. So to answer your question, there will be web search in the Smart Chat. I don't have a timeline for that. I think that it could be, the action could actually be pretty, like near in the future. Like, it won't be long to develop that action. I think the biggest part right now is I'm rewriting the Smart Chat, and there's a lot of things I want to do, in that rewrite to make those conversations really deeply integrated into the smart environment. I think that has a lot of benefit as we move into the future, where the environment can learn from your past conversations and like improve its outputs in the future. So like, that's why I want that deep integration versus interfacing with something like the Open Web UI.
I got a question for you, Brian. I want to
Yeah.
make sure that I'm able to orient this. And by the way, what I'm drawing from is in a previous Lean Coffee. By the way, if you ever see any very rudimentary drawings, it's likely my doing, because I'm likely the least technical person on all of these calls. And so what I want to do, again, to get it into Matthew's elementary understanding of what you're talking about, if I were to look at where like Open Web UI fits into all of this, I think what you're essentially saying is like there's some architectural considerations as like, is there a link between Smart Chat plugin and Open Web UI, or does that need to go more like directly here, or do you not even do an integration there at all, and instead evolve something about this architecture? Could you sort of react to that, Brian, and then we'll sort of kick it over to Matt Parker, who has a question?
Yeah, so I need to update myself with all the capabilities of Open Web UI, but I do imagine that the Smart Connect app and the smart actions provided there, which integrate with the smart environment, given that Open Web UI provides a sort of functionality like GPTs, which, just off the top of my head, I don't see why a GPT type of thing, if they don't have it already, I don't see why it wouldn't be on the roadmap. And basically what that means is to enable the chat to access other API endpoints in addition to, whatever is built in. Mm-hmm. As long as they have that, then the Open Web UI will be compatible with the Smart Connect app. I think that there are some, like UI things that's the reason why, I think that I still want to have my own version of a chat. So like for the time being, I think, like there still will be a separate chat, but I don't see why Open Web UI wouldn't be compatible, given that they have a feature that is similar to GPTs in ChatGPT.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Essentially, I'm hearing the answer to the question is part of how you're designing a lot of the stuff with intent is to focus on the things that you can focus on and make sure that like compatibility with well-designed other solutions is possible without necessarily catering and customizing what you're working on to ensure that there is some integration with third party, because ultimately that's a slippery slope where now you're spending a bunch of time integrating with other things as opposed to going way back into the archives of our Lean Coffees, this idea of you're trying to make sure that you're focused more on innovation as opposed to necessarily like integrating to an ecosystem that is so rapidly evolving that you'll stop innovating and just end up being a third-party integrator.
Yeah, and I think to sum that up, like part of the mission of like especially the open source side of things, where I'm developing these open source components, it's to minimize dependencies. You know, so it's like I want to have all of the code in those open source components, unless absolutely, you know, like it's a hell yeah to include another library. For example, Transformers JS, which provides access to the local embedding models. You know, I think that's a hell yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right. I know Matt Parker, you raised your hand. What you got?
Yeah, quick question. Thanks for the chat and everything. I actually just more of like a workflow question. So I use Smart Connections and Smart Visualizer, the plug, like kind of like the plugin that obviously visualizes the smart connections. And I'm more like asking more of like if anyone has a workflow. So I use Snipt to take notes on like podcasts and books and that sort of thing. It all obviously loads into like Obsidian Smart Connections. And then I'm using the visualizer to see like what notes I have to obviously like link to each other and um how to view them. And I know Brian, you had a video on like creating literature notes off of those notes, right? Where you're like condensing your thoughts into that. But I struggle with like finding like I take the notes and I go through, but I struggle with like actually spending like the time to actually link and write the literature notes to like condense my like understanding of whatever topic I'm looking at. So I'm wondering if anyone has any workflows or recommendations on doing that basically.
Cool. What I'm going to do, Matt, is, and you can see sort of on the board here, what we're doing is prioritizing certain topics, and I've added another sticky to the board here so that when we get through the ones that were prioritized, we can either hit this or we can add the archive to go into the next one. Does that work for you? No, definitely not trying to be dismissive. Want to be make sure that sort of the structure of what we're trying to do gives everybody the opportunity to have the things that were prioritized get into. But I think it's a great topic for sure.
Yep. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and then there's a link,
cool.
by
Thanks
the
for I
way.
didn't even know Snip was a thing.
Yeah, the Snip's pretty cool. Like because it'll take in whatever like there's an app called Libation that downloads like the Audible books, and you can load them through Snipt and run AI processing on them. And then while you're listening to them rather than through Audible, you can just like click your steering wheel or headphone, and it'll take a note of your whatever like section in the book that you're reading, and you can customize the GPT like how it does it. It's like a condensed version or long or custom, and then that all will load to Readwise, and Readwise syncs to Obsidian, and then from there, I use obviously Smart Connections to like actually to understand them, right? Because once you listen to them once, it doesn't mean you actually like learn the topic like intensely. You just kind of have like a better knowledge base. But then I'm trying to follow like Cal Newport's techniques on Cal Newport's an author that goes over a lot of like studying techniques and work planning and focus block planning, things like that. But actually taking them, kind of writing in your own words and developing like your understanding of whatever topic you're interested in. And then I think the cool part with Smart Connections is you can see how things interlink in like various books or articles you're reading, and like there's a lot of crossover that like those random thoughts your brain has, but you can see them with Smart Connections. Like you can literally see that same type of thing on the display.
Very cool. So what I'm doing is, and by the way, people are probably seeing in terms of personal workflow, and I encounter certain ideas. I'm demonstrating what I like to do here, which is when I learn things that I don't know about, I often will ask Perplexity, and then I will be able to copy the link. In my consulting work, I have become known for if I don't know something during a meeting, I will hijack the screen share, ask it in Perplexity, and then give everyone in the thing the link to the Perplexity so that I can create safety for people that all of us don't have to know all of the things all the time. So here's that.
Someone was
I've linked it to this. And
like
then,
why to take notes, and I'm like, well, you don't know you don't know something until you come across it. You know what I mean? Like you're not gonna know certain topics until you like dive into them, and then obviously that's where the smart chat comes in, because you're like, as you're building out your thoughts on something, you could ask those questions that your lack of understanding or the gaps in something. So that's why I was like, have you ever heard of Dexa.ai? It's like a podcast searching app. So if you just go to Dexa.ai, it's like a not database, it's like a web base, and you can just search like, hey, Tim, what does Tim Ferriss think about this particular thing, like whatever question you have, and it looks through all of his podcasts and pulls out like statements, and then it'll actually just go straight to the video, like the section of the video that he's talking about it. And you can do like, Andrew Huberman or like whatever author you're kind of interested in.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right. So I've taken. Thanks, Matt, for all of that Dexa.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, so Dexa. Here, I'm gonna just again archive some of this stuff, and then we'll be able to hop into this.
So were there any more thoughts on the web search topic? No?
Gregorio, were you good on that one?
I saw a thumbs up. He's on mute right now.
Okay, cool. All right, next topic we had talked about.
Did you have anything else on web search, Gregorio?
Yes, so I saw that on YouTube some video that you can build in Python your agent, and then it does web search through terminal.
Ooh, do you have a link to that so we can check that out?
Yes, so I was trying to post I had a kind of a file, but it doesn't allow me to have a markdown file, Miro. So let me see if I can find the link of the video. Let's see. Yeah, if you can start going to the folder, that's the other topic. I will send it.
Okay.
Yeah, if you do that, what I'll do is I'll grab that YouTube link and I'll and here's this. I saw Charlie Potts mention search, so I'll add that one into this other topic here, and we'll keep going. So yeah, folder analysis. Who wants to kick that off while I do? Just keep taking notes around some stuff.
So what's my idea? Folder analysis. Basically, I saw that you can search or you can interact with the file. But let's say I have more files and I want not a summary, I want an understanding, I want an evolution of that topic that is made by, let's say, 5-6 files, and I want some kind of exploration, or thinking around it. So that's what's the idea, because I saw you can just link one file. So ideally, because it's an AI and it can handle multiple data, so the idea was how many data, it's only 4,096 tokens, or you can do, let's say, more. Like if you can do, let's say, 1 step, 2 steps, and then start thinking about it.
Yeah. So right now I know you're using the Smart Chat in Obsidian, and that has, because it's still that, old version that I told you I've been working on, making the next version. So that first version is kind of frozen. Like there's not going to be, any more changes to that. But, with the new version, there will be the ability to do multiple steps. So like right now in that first version, it is just 1 step. So even if the AI, if it retrieves the folder structure, and even if it wanted to say, okay, open up another folder and start looking through files, the Smart Chat in Obsidian is not capable of doing that right now. If you're using the Chat GPT, those GPTs like the Notes GPT, well, Chat GPT already has the built-in capability to make subsequent or execute subsequent actions. So with ChatGPT, you could say, start exploring through my, this specific folder, and, maybe build a report on this specific topic based on my notes. How you would go about instructing the GPT to do that, that is something I've actually been taking a lot of notes on recently, because I think that one of the one of the big next steps in improving the results that we get from these chats is some sort of system prompt that is able to instruct the GPT to continue its search until it like finds all of the most useful information and somehow exclude the information that might have came up but is not so relevant. So is that kind of where you're getting at, like having the GPT be able to take like a multi-step process towards analyzing the contents?
Yeah. So you can have more than one file interaction, let's say.
Yeah. You know, so definitely I think that just falls under, you know, improving that retrieval process. It's definitely something I'm working on, you know, from both a, you know, code side and a prompting side, you know, and I think the prompting side is really important too. So, you know, I don't know how familiar you guys are with like, you know, code, but like, even if you're not familiar with code, if you have ideas about how to prompt the thing to do what you want, you know, that's definitely interesting to me too.
Yeah, so I started doing like the chain of thought since yesterday. So as I made the kind of a prompt, like a system prompt that can, let's say, create a kind of structure in the way you approach any single prompt. So in order to have, let's say, the same, not style, but the same thinking approach between, how do you say, generation of data, of information. There is a nice online, a nice video from the George Hilton. They did a conference. I'm in Toronto now, and they did a conference Monday and Tuesday. So you can find on YouTube if you write George Hilton, and they talk about the risk of AI and also the advantage, and it's nice talk. And then that's where I start doing this about this the chain of thought. He was introducing an argument like the scratchpad thinking that I think it's similar to chain of thought. I'll put the link now with the other one. And yeah, it's nice because you can, I mean, it's a new way of coding at the end because it's a neuro NLP, no? So you give instruction and then the machine is able to perform the operation, the task by itself. So that's super cool.
Yeah. I have a thing that I'm working on, you know, depending on how much you follow my work, like something that I've been working on is what I call smart templates. And a smart template is basically, you know, like imagine having a template with prompts in it, and each prompt is, you know, like completed by the AI to output the, you know, the output of the template. You know, it's like a template that gets filled out by AI. But I think, you know, like what I've been designing it is so that it can actually be a workflow. So even though it's like a template, you know, like you draft this template, imagine the template was like a standard operating procedure, SOP. And then, you know, instead of having that template generated all at once by just like one response from the AI, you could, you know, what I'm anticipating calling it is a progressive template, or like, you know, using, say, like if you're making the template in Markdown, using front matter to define that the template should be, you know, outputted progressively. And what that would do is, instead of outputting all like the results of all the prompts in the template all at once, it would start with the first prompt. You know, that prompt could trigger a retrieval, and then it would output into that first section of the template, and then feed that output into the context for the subsequent prompt. And it would do that, you know, for all of the sections of the template, which I imagine would, you know, provide a better output, you know, instead of just trying to come up with all the context at once and then, you know, outputting for all of these prompts all at one time, you know, because it would be this like progressive or iterative approach.
Is that, by the way, did I
Super
find these right
interesting.
links here?
What's that?
Did I find the right links here? Well, as you were talking, I was trying to bring up some of these things. So, like, yeah, I see you have a video here.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
So yeah, that's the very start. So, you know, like what's out there, like, so there is an Obsidian plugin, I call it Smart Templates, which has the first iteration of this concept, but I've been working on the second iteration of it. And, you know, the next iteration, when that's released, it will have these capabilities of like, progressive execution. And I want to add like a multi-step execution. So it like goes progressively through the template, but also then repeats, because maybe like as it got farther down to a later section, it discovered something that would impact, the first section. So then maybe you could say, execute this or like create this or render the template progressively, but also do it 3 times, so then the final output would be the third. And so I think
question for you, Brian, just
Yeah.
to connect this to some of the other is this tied to that idea of like the progression dimension, like this, like you've talked in other lean coffees around like part of your intent and design for smart connections isn't supposed to be just transactional, but actually is supposed to be able to like progressively elaborate on and not just look at the data that is retrieved in sort of its static state, but then keep up with the change control. Like I think I did, again, really crappy diagram of this last time, but this idea of your first notes was like, you have ChatGPT look at something in notes and then retrieve something back. But then like the future of these things is both being able to look at parts of your note and changing parts of your note, but then being able to look at what you've changed over time as you've changed parts of your note and use that to have better overall outcomes in terms of how you're interacting with smart connections. Is that similar theme of what you were just talking about with smart templates?
So the desired outcome of both is the same, which is just improved outputs. The what I was just talking about would utilize that what I was calling like a progression dimension. Basically, that has to do with the, like basically giving the AI the ability to retrieve like sequential memories. Like if you imagine, how did you improve this note over time? Like having access to that data, that's sort of what I was calling the progression dimension in like the memory context. But as far as the smart template thing goes, it would be progression in the form of outputs from the AI. So it's like when the one is like, it's like they both would work together. So the smart template would retrieve that past data of progression, but then this progression template rendering would be like right here, right now, generating a progression of output.
Would this work for like I'm a manufacturing engineer, but like root cause analysis? You know what I mean? Because I almost feel like that is that. In root cause analysis, you're using. I can send you a template that we use, but it's like a 6W2H, so you're kind of getting like the overview of the thing, like 6, like what, when, where, who, why, how much, how many, and then you kind of transfer that down into a fishbone. And the fishbone is like a problem solving technique. And like you're iterating, exactly what you just said though. You're iterating through a problem solving process and like it's refining it because as you gather information, right, you're like figuring out top causes and you're ending up with a root cause analysis of some breakdown or whatever. But like I almost feel like that's what that template is doing that you're saying.
Yeah, so I think like, using that root cause analysis template that you already have, like putting it into a smart template that can be executed progressively. I think the difference is you would get a better output from this progressive generation rather than if you just dumped everything into chat in context, and just one-shotted it.
One problem I always see in the root cause analysis is people have trouble like questioning the data they're entering, right? Because it's like you're of this single track mind. So maybe we could work on that, but like I could definitely see an RCA version of this that like as you're inputting information into steps, like the template, right, would question you on some fact that you're putting in, right? If you like think something is broken down for some specific reason, it can give you like that branch of like, well, did you consider this?
Cool.
I
know we're a couple minutes over. This was a really great conversation. What I do every time is in this Miro board, I will essentially use the agent that we have that's joined us to break down each of the parts of the conversation. I'll paste that into the green folder here, or the green spot on this Miro board. And then we can always, this is always persistent, so we can use this backlog of topics to maybe feed the next topic. Appreciate everybody accommodating the reschedule. And then Matt, I think it'd be really cool. I just flagged your root cause thing. If you have the time, energy, or effort, if you could maybe put some links to some of that near this post-it note, I'm going to stick that up in this other topic here. So.
I can flatten out a template and send it to you, but like it's actually I work for manufacturing, but it actually came from Procter and Gamble, is who actually developed this. But I can push that if you guys have any ideas of how to, build that out. I think that'd be. I mean, a lot of businesses use this, right? So it's like it definitely has a use case for it.
Sweet.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see, and I'll keep that in mind as I'm designing and putting things together.
Sounds good. I'll try to upload it to you guys and then go from there. Thank you again for your time.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for joining, everyone.